base itself, there can be two different way of communicating with each other. So let me show you an example on that, so it makes more sense. So there's the next is you guys can see only Android Studio, right? Let me share the Chrome as well. Okay, so in here, now you guys can see that you guys can see Chrome, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in here, you can see that with the view model and the repository, it has a singular connection with each other, like we have in view and view model. But the problem is the repository is, even though it is a single source of truth, yes, it is one repository, but repository is composite of two or more data sources. Okay, it can be either a local data source or it can be either a remote data source. So the repository itself contains the model, the MVVM's model in a nutshell, but the repository is compromised. The repository itself is created with either a local data source or remote data source, or so many data sources yet to come. Okay, we can't say exactly how many data sources going to be there, but the repository is designed in a way, the model itself is designed in a way we can have more than one data source to communicate. So there are a couple of reasons for this. The data source management. In a practical application, you will get data from a database or maybe from a remote data source. That is a use case that you will see. Okay, but in a more theoretical way, the repository consider the model or itself as considered as a source of truth. Okay, for any information that is related to the view model or anything related to data, the repository is considered as a source of truth. So in theoretically, repository should contain all the data, whether it is from the local or network or whatever the network layer that you are getting the data source. So many data layers concatenated into one repository, so the repository act as the source of truth. Okay, so practically you can have more. Theoretically, there should be one point of execution. So this pattern helps us a lot with entailing the NVVM architecture. Okay, so the problem with this architecture, the repository architecture, is as I mentioned earlier, the view model, time to time, these implementation changes. Okay, the main reason behind that is developers come across different problems. The architecture itself is clean, but when we are trying to implement this, the implementation might change over time. Okay, they will find easier way to do that, and there will be complications on large scale applications. To avoid that, people come across different way of doing these bindings, doing these or coding this architecture. So as you might have guessed, the repository pattern in this MVVM world, the most unchanged section would be this view model. The view model stays most of the time relatively unchangeable, but when it is coming to view and the repository, they change a lot. The changes are done because of the technology and evolvement, or sometimes these things are changing because the libraries that they were supporting is finding new ways to do these things. So many reasons that will come across. It will be like something is going to be evolving throughout the time. Okay, so the way I am going to teaching you today, implementing the repository with the local data source, it's going to be totally different from someone else implementation. Mainly, as I mentioned earlier, it's because of the technology evolvement. So I'm having a normal application to myself to teach you guys MVVM architecture, but comparing that with the latest update from Google, you will see drastically it has changed. Okay, depending on the developer's perspective, that might change, or depending on how the technology have evolved, it will change. But the concept remains same. Almost everything that is related to this model implementation will be same. Okay, let's keep that in mind, and we will go to our view model for now, and we will have a look on that. And you guys can see that it's there is only view model within this application. We don't have any model so far to go along. Okay, but there are a couple of things that we might need to do, especially with the repository and the network. Uh, within the repository, you will find database as well as network. So we'll be using our prior knowledge to make that happen. So if you guys can remember, I think you guys have followed the MVVM architecture. You guys have followed the room database implementation as well as retrofit. So we'll be using that in this context. Earlier, we just went through it, and we did not, followed a specific design pattern or a specific use case. But in here, we will see how we can utilize those things in a more clean and nice way. Okay, so within this application, what we're going to be doing is we will be simply getting a response from the application itself, maybe a list or something like that, and we will try to display all those things within the application. Okay, so I'll be following the basic example provided by Google itself. So it will be easy for your reference as well. We'll see one by one how we can adapt those changes. First thing first, as you guys can remember, we need to communicate with the network. Okay, so we need to first get retrofit in place. Okay, so we will get retrofit in place. So it's going to be adding a dependency to our application. Let me go ahead the latest build.gradle, and we might need we'll be using these dependencies within our application. So I'm going to be copying out few stuff. So we'll be using retrofit this version, and we'll be having retrofit coroutine support. And if you guys can remember, we need a converter to handle retrofit conversion, especially with the JSON and everything. So we will be using Moshi converter. You guys can use whatever you like, depending on your requirement. That's totally up to you. Nothing stopping you from using that. And of course, we will need the Moshi itself. This is just the converter, so we need to add Moshi as well as the converter. Okay, and couple of things I would like to add. Of course, we're going to be using Room to help with the database connections. So I'll be adding Room to Room in here as well. So it's going to be, I will be using Room this 2.1 version and Android X Room compiler alongside that. Okay, so the dependencies gonna be get on. Yeah, I need some plugin. KTP plugin should be there. So I'll add the KPT pattern plugin as well. Otherwise, oops, KPT won't work. Let's try it again. Depending cache grab, sometimes a connection. Build clean project. On the plugins. Oh, I think I need to have plugin in here. Can make simply saying ID Kotlin. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, till that's coming up, the dependencies, we will move on to the repository itself, and we'll see how we can get things started. So we'll be using some sort of a service. Of course, if you guys can remember, we need a service definition for the network calls to happen. So I'll be creating Kotlin class, which contains retrofit service. Okay, and we will have that as well. We can create an object out of it to make it easy, and we will see where we're going to be getting the data. So we'll be getting retrofit, of course, and we'll be using the Moshi connector factory. So this is just basically setting up the base configuration for retrofit. So that is done. And if you guys can remember, we need an interface to call the data. So I will have the get method, and we need to find the return type for this get playlist. So I'm going to be calling out this API. Let's if you guys go here and go to DevBytes, you will get some images as well as some playlists regarding Android development. So we are not interested in the URL itself, but if you are trying to replace with your own URL, just this is the place that you're going to be doing, and it will be automatically changed. And what are the methods? What are the things that you need to get? Uh, you have to do this kind of service definition, and what is the output that we are getting. So let's go for 1 second on our browser and see what is the output of this application, at least the endpoint. Yeah, so it's a simple JSON output. If you guys can see, it is a object, a plain object, and within that plain object, you will see something called videos, and within videos is an array. Within that array, you will find title, description, URL, updated, and thumbnail. So basic information regarding the dev bytes. So this is going to be the output that we are working with. So we have to model this. The response that we're going to be getting out of this is called the network video container. Okay, we will do the network media container as well. Simply to put everything in a good manner, we will say models. Okay, so in here we will create the requested models for us. Sometimes this is called domain. It's up to us to name whatever the name that we like, but most of the time, let's keep it in mind. Models or domains are the terms that we'll be using throughout. It's up to the sometimes the application itself, the developers, they come across the term that we can use. Okay, so we will create the network video container in our class itself. So we will be having a data class. We will create these as Java class. We call these models. Capital M, since it is a class. Okay, we will have that network video class, and it's going to be a data class. If you guys can remember, data class can help us a lot. You don't need parentheses, and let's see what we need. Network video container. This is the class that we have defined in here. Yes, and we can import it now. Within this, you will see a list of videos. If you guys can remember the output, it will contain something called videos, and it's going to be list of network videos. So I'll copy paste the class itself, so we don't have to write it again and again. So we will have something called network video. Okay, remember these terms. We will be looking at again in a different way as well. So we have a list of network videos. Of course, that is this is the one that we be getting from the server itself. Okay, let me remove this for now. I'll show why later on. So we have this data class, really simple. So if you guys can see, whatever whatever we are getting from the network, we call this as a network video. Okay. So it is not an isolated one, it is wrapped around an object. So we have a wrapper class, network video container, which contains a list of videos. Okay, the video is a list of network video which represent this. Okay, so this is the similar, this is the similar version, similar thing that you will see within the network call itself. Okay, this is a representation or data transferring object related to the network code. That's why we are naming these things as network video. Otherwise, we can go with something like video. Okay, but in here, we are referring this as network video because to get ourselves, okay, where this is coming from. This is coming from network itself. So we call this as network video. Okay, we will have different models for local database as well as networks. In a nutshell, we will see why this different thing is there. So right now we will just get over with the retrofit service. Okay, obviously retrofit service should not be within in our application, but I will move it to a higher ground. Okay, all right. So we have set up retrofit and we have done a simple modeling for that. Earlier on, if you guys can remember, we will just call this retrofit service and we will get everything within our view itself. If you guys can remember, we sometimes we got those within our fragment. We got those things as from our we got some things from our main activity, but in this case we are not going to touch anything because we're going to be following a pattern. So within that pattern, we can't directly inject the service into the model that is considered as an anti-pattern. So we are not going to do that. Okay, we have the fragment, we have the retrofit. Now we need the other data source. The other data source is considered as the room database. So we need to set up room as well. So we will have room entity as well, and we will of course we need to set up room as well. We will take room first, then it will be easy to get the database connection and everything. So yeah, right. Let's set up room. We'll create a new Kotlin class for room. Okay, and I will copy paste some of the things we will need. We will get the database function. Let's import the context, and we need to define a database. So I will define the video database class itself. Okay, and we will of course I'm not gonna go through each and everything in here because it is not that important because we have covered all of these things early on, and we just need to make sure we are following the basics with that. All right, let's see. We need to define instance, returns instance. Okay, private let init of the instance. As you guys can remember, database should be a singular instance. Otherwise, you will come across so many instances. That's why we are using one synchronized method to make sure only one instance of the database connection is created. All right. So I'm not going to go each and every one in here, but we will be needing something called database video. If you guys can remember, we have the class for network video. Now we will have something for the um, database video. Okay, this is going to be the representation on local database. Okay, so let's create that as well. That is called the database video. Repository size. See database. We need database views. Okay. Let me copy that. So database video is a representation of the database itself. So if you guys can remember, we need to import the entity, primary key, as well as some other, this is not needed. Format the code. Okay. So this is the database video. Within here, you will find that, okay, there is URL, updated title, description, and thumbnail. So if you take a closer look, you will find that these things are pretty much similar. So we have title in here. We also have title in here. We have description. We have description. And URL, thumbnail, closed captions, and all those things are here. But some of the variables you will find not in the network call itself, but you will find, you won't find in the database, but you will find in the network video. So the main point of having two different, even though they seems to be representing the same thing. Okay, even though it is a network video, even though it is a database video, the representation, the fields and everything is like quite similar. But the why we need two different sort of implementation in this scenario is that make sure sometimes the representation that you will see in the network will be totally different from the database perspective. Database would not be allowed to have, let's say, for example, if you have a relationship in here, okay, if we have relationship in here, the representation of the relationship compared we have in a database video, we have a foreign key constraint and we will have something there. But in a network video, they can be represented as a identity, or there may be something similar to like a reference or a link. So do not create one single representation for two different data sources. Make sure you create two different data sources because they are containing they are coming from two different their purpose is two different things. Of course, they can have similarities, but having a one single model will break your system if something comes up on either way, either party. Okay, so we will import this as well. Really simple. So we have a data DAO layer in here. So we have the database connection. we'll be using this only, we will be entitling the video database video class only, and we will have simple queries to get videos and to insert videos. Okay, so this is the simple database function that we'll be using, but it is effective. Get video, it is something similar to what you will see within the application itself, but in here you will have the same thing, but it's little bit different. In here we call the get playlist, but in Room context we call the get videos. Okay, that's because there is a conversation going on. For example, when it is coming from network, we have a container which contains video as an array. Okay, so if you are planning to put this in a database, of course you can't put the most application top root most response. Will be only interested in the videos. Okay, so we will be storing this in the database, and it is something similar to this entity. So in this scenario, what you guys need to remember is that when we are getting it from network, the representation is different. When we are getting it from the database itself, the representation is little bit different. Let me refactor that. Okay, we have room to get all the videos, and we have insert to insert all the videos. Okay, great. So we have two data sources set up, one for network, one for local. All right. If you guys can remember within the model, those two data sources, in this scenario, the net retrofit and the room, are interconnected with each other with something called a repository. Okay, so these are two different data sources. We'll be connecting these things using a repository. Let's see how we can do that. We have created the data sources. Now we have created the repository. Okay, so basically repository creation is fairly simple in this in here. It's basically having binding these two data sources into one. Let's see how we can do that. Right. View model. Let me give you a second. View model we have. Okay, so what we'll do is we will get the data, of course, obviously, in the initial way of doing that. What we have to do is we have to make a network call. Okay, within the network call itself, we can get the data from our application. Okay, so we won't be having we will be having the old value, but we will have something called the playlist. Okay, we have a playlist, as you guys can remember. Uh, we will be having something like this. Oops. Control. You guys can see that we have a mutable live data. Same thing here. Instead of one single attribute, we will be having a list of dev byte videos. So if you guys can remember in the models, we have not created the dev byte videos. Let's see how we can create that. Okay, we will need model for that as well. So I'm gonna put it in here. Option. Don't need this actually at this moment. So we will create another model in here called dev byte videos. Okay, and within the model itself, we will be referring it has dev byte videos. So you guys can see three different implementations. Let me import that. Not sure why it is not. Okay, import it. So if you look at this dev byte video, okay, so it is not either of these representations. We have network video, we have database video, but we have dev byte videos as well. So everything that you will see in here looks similar. Not 100%, but at least looks similar in terms of properties, in terms of what their functionalities. They're going to be look most of the time much alike. Okay, but remember, this is coming from the network data source. This is coming from the database source, and this is what we're going to be using in our application. So I don't need this. So this is going to be the representation of either one of these, whether it is a network video call or whether it is a database video or network video, we'll be converting that as a dev byte video. Whatever the name that you can come up with, it is okay. But the main point of having this dev byte video is it is not going to be representing a network video or a database video. It's going to be its own. So this type, no matter where it is coming from, this is the type that we're going to be referring. Okay. So for example, let's say we have another data source coming in here. We have another data source that will be needed from our within our application. So we can have a separate model for that, but the conversation, the ultimately whatever it comes, whatever the data source brings us, it need to be converted to dev byte video, because dev byte video is the one that we're going to be displaying, or that's the one that at least we will be using within our view model. Okay, so why another example, another use case, or another plus point with the view model is that, say for example, we have the developers and all the designers have come across to an agreement, okay, saying, okay, this dev byte video is the type that we're going to be representing the user. The view itself going to be built upon only with these values. Okay, so no matter how the data source is going to get complicated or the data source going to be changed, we don't mind that. We'll be only accepting a list of these video bytes. Okay, so we can agree upon one point. Okay, we'll be giving you guys list of dev bytes videos. We don't care the data source, what the data source is, what is the value it's gonna come, what sort of protocols that you're using, whether you're gonna be using retrofit. We don't care, as long as you can deliver list of videos, list of dev byte videos, specifically this format, we are okay. Okay, so the development team or the UI design team can go ahead and develop the application by looking at this model only. And another team within your organization, they can go and implement this retrofit service, room service, whatsoever, in a full stack or in a short staff development project. Obviously, you might be responsible for developing the room and retrofit and everything. But in a large organization, there are a separate developer who is responsible for building up the UIs is there. They can agree upon this point and go on their separate ways. Okay, so this helps a lot in terms of writing unit tests. Okay, say for example, a person is responsible for writing mutable. A person is responsible of going with writing UI test, unit test for this application. So they can obviously go with dummy data and do that. Okay, same goes for here. Okay, now you guys can see that these are two legitimate data sources. One is coming from the database, another one is coming from the network itself. Okay, but in a scenario where you want to test something, you want to do some testing and modification, you can easily introduce a mock data service. A mock data service is something we consider as a dummy data. Okay, as dummy data, even though you let's say for example, for some reason the people who are behind developing this network call or this API is lagging behind, or they did not deliver everything on time. So what will happen? We can't as a developers, without these values, we can't as UI developers, we can't work without this data, right? But since we agree upon, okay, this is going to be coming from dev bytes videos, so even though they are not done with their development, and if they have no API request coming from, no problem. What we can do is we can make another data source, which can be a dummy data source, and we can consume that. Okay, so testing will be easy, even though every data source is not ready. The network might be not ready. We can introduce a dummy one and we can move. Okay, that's the beauty of having multiple data sources, and each and every data source, make sure you have a different data type. So for example, let's say for example, we have a mock data one. So mock we can create a class and we can say mock video. Okay, it's going to be coming from a mock video, mock data, and obviously it will have something similar, but make sure we define a data source and define the model which it represents. Okay, right now we'll be not doing mock data sources, but if you are trying to do let's say without internet connection or without without relying on the network, we can get that. Okay, that's one of the key important points. I mean, rather than learning, okay, this is going to be that, you should learn why these things are doing that and what sort of advantages are there. Okay, so you guys can remember we have a private one and a public one, which we use to access. Okay, so we will have the getters for this as well. So we have the play_playlist that is for private reference, and playlist which will be used by the view itself. So when view is concerned, it will be accessing this playlist itself. Okay, so we will be live data by stream. So it's going to be the same thing, but access modifiers are a little bit different. Okay, of course you can go with something like this as well, but to make sure it is we are only accessing the get, you can obviously go with the get declaration as well. So so no setters will be allowed. Okay, now the first thing that we should do when this view model is loaded, we should say, hey, we need some data within the playlist. Okay, so what we will do is we have initialization methods like constructor within our application. We have an initializer, and we will say refresh data from network. Refresh data from network is going to be a private function which will take the data from within the application, or we will call the network repository layer, and we will try to get these things in, within the application. So by initializing, we will fetch some data. We will just say, okay, fetch some data. Right. So in here, we'll be using something called Kotlin coroutine related stuff with view model scope and launch. That means we will be launching this. Let's see why the error is coming on. Oops. Okay. Coroutine launch is imported. Okay. Otherwise, it won't work. Now we have the other things. Let's see what are those things. So within this network request, within this repository access, I'm not the correct terminology is not network, but the database access. There can be two things happening. One thing, it gets success, okay, without an issue. You call your network layer and it gets success. You will get a success response. For some reason, your network is not there. Maybe the server is busy, or your URL has jeopardized, or it has been changed. Whatever reason, the network request that we're going to be making is going to be failing. There's a success scenario and there's the failure scenario. So always remember, when you are working with the view model or some kind of application development, at least handle those two scenarios. Of course, most of the time, these is the most used scenario, the success and failure. So you will have, if you are lucky enough, you will have a playlist. But if you are unlucky, or it's not unlucky or something like that, but if there is an error occurred, we can have a separate error handler for that. Okay, so we will have error handler for that. We will call that event network error, and it's going to be a boolean, whether it's going to be a whether it is happened or not. And we will have a private variable for handling that. So if the view is concerned, view can check, okay, if there is an error or not. If there is not an error, you can do something. If there is a success, you can do something else. Or maybe you can launch some toast message or show a banner, whatever you like. Okay. So network error in this scenario, the first scenario when you are trying to get from our network, if the values are values are okay, we can set it, and the network error value has not happened. That means the value for this is going to be false. Okay, because there was no error. And we can have another variable whether we have shown some sort of notification to the user. Okay, so that is also considered as Boolean. Okay, all right, an error has happened and we have shown it to it. Okay, right now initially, since there was no error and we don't need to show, so it's going to be a false yes, it's going to be false. But in a case, okay, in a case, what will happen is there is going to be a network error. If there is going to be a network error, the try is the success way and the catch is the error way. So if there was an error, what we'll do is event network error, which resolve whether a network error has happened or not, will have the value of true. That means if an exception happen, we will have this underscore event network error to be true. Okay. So remember these things when you are developing. Handle the success as well as the error event. Okay, let's see the DevByte network get playlist. So this is going to be something like the repository that we talked about. Let's see how it's actually coded. Oops. Let me go there. Okay, I think we have created this class within retrofit, I think. Yeah, we have named it wrong. We can simply say retrofit service, but we will stick to the names given by the example itself, or we won't do anything wrong. Okay, so we have this DevBytes instance of this, and it will be created by the retrofit itself, and we will use the DevByte service, which will be interface, and we have the method called get playlist, and there you go. So DevByte network, DevBytes get playlist. So in this scenario, what will happen is we will get all the details from the network itself, and what we will do is we have this playlist, okay, the live data, and we say post values, and the playlist what we are getting from the dev network, it's gonna be a network video container. Yes, it's going to be a network video container. So what we'll do is next, but in here, if you guys can see, the playlist is a type of dev byte videos. But we are getting in here is network video content. So we need to convert these values as we need. So if you guys can see, playlist has as domain model method. So we did not have this in the network container. We will go and get the transformation there. What it was called as domain model. we'll see yes. It was in the deal. The video comment. Okay. Network video container. There you go. So we'll attach a network video container as domain model, and we will return a list of video dev bytes. So that's because if you guys can remember, the playlist that we are having is only accepting list of dev byte videos. So we need to do that conversation. Okay, as you can see, we are attaching the value in here, which is as domain model, and you guys can clearly see that this video container will have a set of videos, as you can see in here, and we will map in the sense we will change it to a dev byte video. So taking out from these videos, which contains network videos, you can see it in here as it reference to it, and we are converting into a dev byte video. So this kind of conversation will happen all the time, because ultimately from wherever you are coming from, we need to have this dev byte videos. So this kind of mapping, this kind of transformation will convert a network video to a dev byte video. This is how you're going to do that, and it's going to return a list of dev byte videos. Okay, and why this is complaining? Playlist. Model. Let's go result. So I'm not gonna have the type in here. Now what will happen is whenever we are calling that, it will call this domain model and it will return the dev byte videos, and it will update the playlist. Okay, so this will be updated, and the values for the playlist will be getting from the network itself and will be stored in here. Okay, let's see whether those values are coming or not. First of all, we can go to the as you guys can remember, this playlist related things will be accessed in the view section. So we will go to our main fragment. This is where we're going to be looking at, and we will be observing the playlist. View model, playlist, observe, and view lifecycle owner. This is the owner, the same one, and we will use log D, and it's gonna be main fragment, so we can easily refer. And we will see it dot let's say first one. We'll try to get the first one out of that list, and let's try to see the title. Okay, should be okay. From the list, we will get the first value. Let's see whether it is coming or not. Let's bring up the logcat. Say main fragment. We will filter those things out. And we will restart the application. Let's go to the device. This one. Emulator. Stop the application. It's not. Clean the project. Cannot clean while the build it. Okay, I think it's still building. Let's give this for a few minutes. So up until now, any questions, guys? We only directly call the view model, and we directly call the network, and we get the values. We'll see how this goes. Okay, still loading. So normally it does not take that much of time. Let me stop it. Now build. Okay, stop it again. Let's run it again once. Not sure why it is taking. Let me close the Android Studio. Yes, my Android Studio. Let me run it again. Test. Okay. You guys can see Android Studio or not?
No, sir, you can't.
Okay. New screen, Android Studio. Okay. Now you should, right?
Yeah, now it's okay.
Okay. Let me run it again one more time. Okay, installing. Okay, we got an error. Let's see what's wrong. Probably with the internet, I think. Unable to create convert network video convert. Retrofit. Probably due to. I think I forgot to add network in manifest. That might be the case. Let's see. Android manifest. I think I need to use permissions. Yeah. We have internet permissions since we are using that. Still shows. Stop it, run it again. Unable to create converter. Same one, right? Run it again. I think I know the issue. Okay, converter is not there. That's because I think I forgot to add the JSON converter. Yes, JSON class from the Moshi itself. So when we are working with network request with Moshi itself, we need these annotations on top of network calls. Okay. Import. We need to deserialize this as well. Yeah. Let's see whether it's fixed the issue. Later. Okay, the converter is missing. Now it's okay, it seems. Let's go to the logcat and let's get, I don't know whether this is visible for you guys, but not for me. We'll be looking at main fragment. Let me restart once again. Okay. After a little bit of hesitation, we got the Android Jetpack in emoji compact. Okay, so if you guys can go to the videos and you can see the first one in the title is this one that we are having right now. Okay, let's try to bind it to the view and see whether it works as well. Main fragment is not the expected outcome, but something that you can do. Binding message. The text for this is IT $0 title. Okay, let's run it again. Yeah, it shows something. It's not totally aligned, but it shows. Yeah. Okay. Right now, what we have done is we got the values from network request, and we were able to have it as an observable, and it works as we expected. Right now, from the initialization of this application, you guys can see that it is coming as we expected. All right. So any questions up until this? I mean, we haven't touched the database use case as of now, but any questions up until binding with the database, sorry, binding with the retrofit and how we are getting that. Now, if you guys can remember, earlier on in the previous course, if I remember correctly, we directly call these things within the view itself. So at that time, it is okay for you guys to learn it and to have an idea about it. But now separate concerns are there. We have evolved ourselves, and now we don't call anything from the view itself. The view is untouched. As you can see, we do not have anything related to retrofit. Oops, yes. If you go to the main fragment, within the main fragment, you don't have anything related to retrofit. But when you need some data, you get as an observable from the view model itself. Okay, so we have the view model is observing. So within the view model, you have the success scenario and the error scenario as well. So we have created a couple of data sources. I mean, at least two. So we have, by initializing the view model itself, okay, we can say when the view model is created, we take some data from the network request, which is using retrofit. and retrofit will give us some data, and we will update in the view model. The view model will be observably saying the fragment. Okay, we got some data and we have updated it to you. Any questions up until this, guys? Remember, if you don't understand this, tell it right now, because a lot of you guys, I'm not sure whether you're batch or not, a lot of you guys are coming back on the final examination paper saying, "Ane sir, C එකක්වත් දෙන්න, අනේ sir D එකක්වත් දෙන්න." Then I only thing that I can ask is, what the hell are you doing when I was teaching? Okay, don't beg for anything. Like if I give you marks, then the person who studied will be having a disadvantage. Okay, somebody is getting free marks, somebody is getting marks after studying. That is not acceptable. Okay, so if you don't understand this right now and then, please tell me. I can explain it one more time. Okay, I'm going as slow as I can go, because everybody should get a fair chance. But if you don't understand, that is okay. I mean, not everybody in here might be geniuses or people who can understand code at one go. But if you don't understand, that's fine. You can just tell me, then we will go walk through once again. Everyone have a good idea? Yes? Krishan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sadisha? Sadisha or Sadisha? Not sure. Sandun?
Yes.
Sadun? Okay. If you don't understand, let me know. Okay. Right now, so we have observed the what do you call the success. The same goes. We can observe the error, view model error, event network error. Okay, view life cycle owner. Okay, we will find this, and we can say log D. In here, we can say IT. It's gonna be event network error. We have to observe. Okay, in IT you will get a boolean. We'll say error. We can say IT. Okay, whether there is an error or not. So to simulate this, what I will do is I will just simply go with the retrofit service, and I will add the dummy text over there. So the network request should fail. Let's see. Yeah, you can see error. It is false. Okay, that's how we can check the error scenario, and it's gonna crash the application as well. That's a different story. But we get the error scenario in here. Okay, so Android basic for the best case scenario, the success, and the worst case for that will be also there. So now we need to come to a conclusion where we can where we going to be using our database. Okay, what's the use case of the database that we're going to be using on? Okay, let's go back to the within the application itself. let's see where we can use the database itself. Give me 1 minute. Network domain models. That's the room. Nothing. Instant. Repository service. At Unity, you can see. Okay. Form application. Check. Um, okay, yeah, within the given sample application, we don't find any service implementation with that. Let me check why. I think maybe I'm in a different branch, maybe. Right. We want Yeah, might be, it's not showing anything related to this. Okay, what we'll do is we will um, go ahead with this implementation as for now. Then we will see how we can, maybe you guys can fill in when you get a list of playlists in here. Uh, as assignment or as work to be done, you guys can go ahead and put these things in the what do you call it, in the list view or recycle view. Okay, let's do that as one of the examples or one of the assignments that you will be doing. So obviously you can get a list of DevByte videos. Probably you guys can fill up with list view or recycle view, and you guys can show the title and whatever the details that you will be coming across. Okay, there will be image, so you can use image view to show it as well. Do it your own, so you guys can remember the list view creations, and you will find the patterns of how you guys can get these data as well. Okay, make a note on that. Right, let's try to do database initialization. I'm not sure why it is not showing. Okay. All right. Traffic service, we have done that. Okay, let's do like this. When we are getting these values, okay, obviously we are getting values from the what do you call from the develop uh, uh, some from the network itself. Now what we can do is we can use the same values to be saved in a database. Okay, we have the database set up within the room. Okay, in here you guys can see that we have the DTO and we have the insert all query, and we can utilize that to insert all the values in the database. Okay, or we can do something like this more to make more interesting. uh, whenever we are getting a value, for example retrofit sorry, view model, um, we can do something like this. We can uh, we can get the values from the network itself, and we can store it in the database. Okay, for the first call. For some reason, let's assume that we lost our network connectivity, and we can check, okay, um, whether network data is available, whether we have network connectivity. If the connectivity is there, we can call this function and get all the data. If the network functionality is not there, like for some reason the network is turned off or it is not working, we can fetch the data which was saved during the first initialization. But even with the first initialization, after network is coming into hand and it is not working, then of course we should show an error. We can't show anything unless you connect to the network first, because we need to fetch some data. Those fetch data should be saved in the database itself. And once it is done, if internet connectivity is not there, we can fetch from the database. If the internet connectivity is there, we can always fetch from the network as well. So add that on top of your work, so you guys can continue and on that as well. Okay, anyone have any questions with the requirement? So let me repeat once again. Um, uh, so initially, what should do is it should retrieve data from the network, and it should display if data is available, if network is available, you can populate in a list view. In the initial view, after the initial loading happens, for some reason, if we lose the network connectivity, what should happen is do not fetch from the network, but fetch it from the local database and show it in here. Okay. In the first case, and that means in the first, when we are launching it for the first time and there is no internet connectivity, of course, there is nothing saved in the database, so we can't show nothing. We can either say empty data source, may check your internet connection or something like that, then show an error message or something like that. So you guys have you guys have two things to do. First, show the values which are coming. If we are offline, fetch those data from the database and show. Okay, the playlist, this is going to be the source of truth that we'll be updating anyhow. Okay. All right. Any questions on the assignment itself? Yes. Okay. Seems not. All right, we will get that in place. Hopefully, I don't think we will have enough time to go with the repository concatenation. Either one of these things happen, but it's a good exercise, so you guys can follow it. If yeah, within the next lecture, I think we have to cover up the concatenation between these two. Okay, the local data source and remote data source. Now we are treating these two things as different data sources. We need to concatenate into a one repository and fetch this data as a single source of truth. Okay, we will be looking at that. But for now, you guys can treat these things as two different ones and work on the repository logic. Okay, we'll see how we can concatenate using special functions built in built in with Kotlin, not Angular. It's a pattern that we have to follow ourselves. Okay. All right. Any questions up until now? Okay. Okay, the project, yes, I can share. Blah, blah, blah. Don't I have a Git repository? Give me a second, I will make this as a Git repository. Projects, this is Android, no, it's in Android projects. Go documents, go to home, Android project, and Debian test. Let me create GitHub repository very quick. GitHub. Is this mobile game? Okay. Where do I create repositories? Repositories, new one. I will call in VVN_test. It's going to be a public one. No, create this repository. Let me check whether I have it on it. git status, git init, git and git commit minus m initial git status master main. I have created the main branch and let me push it. Origin you okay should be there now. Okay. Right, let me share that within the group itself. Carol and okay. So you will get the code in here as well. You can refer that if you need. All right, anything else? No? All right. So practice, guys. This is the only way that you will be learning these things out. I mean, I don't know any other way of getting the knowledge out of you. Only way that you will find these things, mastering all these things to be within your head or within your body. It's only way if do the things again and again. How many times you will fail, that is okay. Failing is the most important thing of learning. Okay, fail as much as you like, but once again you will succeed. At that time, when you succeed, you will have learned a lot. You might have done one project, but you will be having a knowledge of 1,000 errors that will be how to handle 1,000 errors. Okay. So only thing that you guys need to do is practice. Go again and again and try to do this, and it will be really simple, really easy once you got to hang around it. Okay, any questions, guys?